Hi everyone, welcome to the Coach's Clinic. I'm Coach Kyle, and today we're going to go over a few more different types of exercise programs. So if you've been following me the last couple of weeks, at the beginning, I went over the number of repetitions that you might want in your exercise program, the amount of rest, how many sets, and then after that, going through different variations of ways to apply that into different types of exercise programs and different types of sets that you can do. So again, today is going to be a couple more that I'm going to go over. Today is going to be a little bit more based around more experienced uh, athletes, those that have worked out a bit more, those that are able to push themselves a little bit harder. But those that are new, you can see this and see, okay, that's what I want to build up to. So you can certainly learn from these exercises. So today I'm going to go over two. I'm going to go over what's called the drop set and the rest pause set. They're very similar in exercises, but there are a slight variation between the two, which I will go over in a little bit here. So today I'm actually going to go over a few workouts, show you kind of what it looks like to do these types of sets, and so you can visualize how it's done, plus you can see a little bit of a workout on top of that. So to begin off, I'm going to start off with the drop set. So a drop set, I did mention it a few weeks ago on when I listed all these exercise programs. So I'm actually going to slow down and just take a lot longer on these sets. So the drop set is when you take a workout to failure, and then so a failure is when you can't do another repetition of that exercise, and then you put the weight down, and then you're going to take a lighter weight right after that, no rest, about between 5 and 20% lower percentage of the weight that you use, and then do a few more repetitions. You can do it in a couple different ways. You can just do it once. You can drop down to lower weight, do a couple more repetitions, and be done. Or what you can do is do those few more repetitions until failure, put those weights down, go even lighter, and continue on, and you can do it for however long that you want to do it for. So it's great if you want to really, if you are looking to bulk up, to build muscle and to build strength, it is something that you can do while also saving some time. So you put that stress on your muscles, as this program is a lot more of going from one weight to the next repetition to the next. So that's a benefit for that if you're looking to save time while still being able to build strength. I wouldn't recommend doing this type of thing every single exercise. It probably put too much of a limit, stress on your body. You don't want to overtrain yourself, but to do that every once in a while, it's a great way to build your strength and definitely endurance as well. These are definitely endurance based exercises or sets for you to go over. So to begin, I'm going to do a couple of exercises showing you what a drop set looks like. So the first exercise I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a very basic chest press with dumbbells. So I am definitely going to go for heavier weights here. So those are less repetitions to begin with. So especially when you're doing a drop set, you want to have all your weights prepared, because as you put one weight down, you got to put the next ones up. So I'm just getting myself prepared a little bit right now. I got my first weights ready, and get my next set of weights prepared as well. So I'm only going to do a drop set once. So I'm going to do my number of repetitions with the heavier weights, put it down, and do a few more with the next one, and call it good. But if you prefer or want to go further in the repetitions, you can have many different weights prepared. For different types of exercises, you can, if you have a machine, it's a lot easier to then drop the weights one after the next. So dumbbells might be a little bit difficult unless they're right next to you, prepared to drop from one weight to the next. So especially with heavier weights, I'm going to be very careful with how I'm handling them. Don't want to drop them on myself, as always. So to begin, I always put the weights onto my knees, so I got control over the weights right from the start. I'm gonna prepare my feet to get those in the right position, body position. So when I'm ready to be lying down, I'm actually thinking about having a nice straight back right now, straight forward, and then when I lie down, I'm already in that position. And I just have to move my hips back. So what helps me is I kick up with my knees to get the weights up to begin. And as I lower myself down, so back is nice and straight. I'm first thinking about my body position, my shoulders back and down, and then press. All right. Feel like that's it, so I'm careful to put the weights down on my side. I'm going to move these out of the way. Get the next weights ready and continue on for a couple more reps here. Again, begin the same way. Have control of the weights. They are lighter weights, but still heavy overall. And that is one set of exercises. And as always, if you've been watching me lately, keep losing my hat every time I lie down. And so that is just an example of the first set of drop. Now, just take a rest between every set. I have my water ready. I'm just gonna breathe through it. As I mentioned before, you can use this for endurance. You can use it for building muscle and building strength, depending on what you want to do. Depends on the number of reps you do and how heavy you're going to do it, how heavy your weights are going to be. So if you want to think about the intensity, go back, I think 2 weeks ago, you can watch the video on that, how I explained how to do those. So I'm going to take a little pause right now so I can catch my breath a little bit. Yeah, these are heavier weights even for me. So while I'm taking a breath, while I'm thinking about what I want to do in the next set, I'm actually going to move the weights around a little bit. I'm not going to pick them up and play around with them too much just to get them prepared for my next set. So I'm just going to do the chest press one more time just to see that I've got a rest and move on to the next one, and then I'll continue on after that. So with the weights prepared, I'm just taking my rest here. All right, so as the weights are heavier, your next set might not do as many reps, perfectly fine. You just do what your limit is. And so this also again show you, I'll probably do a little bit less reps on this one as well, compared to the first set of these. So just to let you know, you don't have to do an exact number of reps every single time. You do what's going to be most beneficial for you without overdoing it. Set the weights right from the start. I can guess how many reps, but it'll just be whatever feels most comfortable for me at the moment, especially with the heavier weights. All right. Gently put the weights down. Get it out of the way. Didn't lose my hat that time. And then, of course, like I mentioned before, go right into the next set. And that's just an example of 2 sets of a drop set. All right, so take again another rest before I move on to my next exercises that I'm going to do, but I'll clean up with the weights that I have. Definitely took a little bit out of me today. Which is good. That's the goal of what's doing these types of sets. Get you exhausted, so you're building those muscles, being healthier. So I'm gonna do one more type of drop set, but with different exercise. I'm just gonna do the bicep curls. So this is a little bit easier. There's not as much prep work. The weights are significantly lighter, just because the movement is a little bit more difficult to do. So with this, it's much easier to drop down the next set, just because I just gotta put the weights down, move over, and do the next weights here. I'm gonna take a little bit more of a rest here, a little bit of a breather. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the bicep curl with both weights at the same time. Do one arm at a time, alternating arms. or both arms at the same time. If you're doing both arms at the same time, sometimes a barbell would work best, but at the same time with barbell, it's a little more difficult to change the weights. So if you have two barbell weights that you have a nice good drop set, it'd be very easy, but if you adjust the weights, it takes a little time, so it makes drop set a bit more difficult to do. So that's why I'm just using the dumbbells. Very easy to do the exercise, put it down, move on to the next one. So, got the weights. My feet are going to be shoulder width apart. Maybe a little slight bend in my knees here. Stand nice and tall, shoulders back and down. Shoulder position, elbow position is very important for bicep curls. So I'm just going to have palms facing forward and begin. And how your muscles exhaust can differ from body part to body part and person to person. With me in bicep curls, I get exhausted very quickly between one rep to the next. So it's not as gradual exhaustion. So at one point, I might just not be able to make it. Yep. And I'll call that one good. What I do is put it down, move on to the next one. As you can see, much easier to transition from weight to weight. Although, even though it's only 5 pounds lighter, still very difficult to do even the lower weights. And good. And so you can see between different exercises, drop set can be easier from one exercise to the next, depending on how the weights are positioned and how easy it is to change. I mentioned before, machines can be very easy to drop sets, because all I gotta do is pull out a pin, put in to the lighter weight. So I'm just gonna do one more set. Again, I'll probably do a lot less reps as my biceps are exhausted. So that's just a matter of doing heavier weights. Just gonna take a little bit more rest here. The proper rest in between sets. I don't have a stopwatch in front of me, but I'm generally gonna try to guess between a minute rest. That's what I'm trying to aim for, maybe a minute, minute and a half. I like to shake my body out in between exercises, especially upper body. I know it just loosens me up, gets me ready for the next set. All right, and then final set of these. I can feel I'm not going to do nearly as many repetitions. I actually lost count last time. Yep. Yeah, form, about to lose my form right there. That was my limit, and drop down. Of course, anytime you're doing these to exhaustion, you want to make sure your form is correct. And even my drop set, I couldn't do as many reps. So you can see quickly how quickly when you get exhausted, how your form can change. You want to make sure that you're doing it correctly so you just don't hurt yourself. All right, so that's just a couple examples of a drop set. If you do it a little bit differently, if you want to drop even more weights, depending on how you program yourself. Now, next I'm going to do is the pause set, rest pause, excuse me. Very similar to a drop set, but instead of lowering the weight, you just take a little bit of a breather in between doing a couple more repetitions at the end. So again, very similar where it's great for building strength. It's great for bulking up because you're hitting your limit and going a little bit past it even some more. And endurance. Endurance is always doing something for even longer. So that's basically what drop set and pause set is that you're just pushing yourself to go even further for longer. So I'm going to do different exercises here. What makes this a little bit easier is that I don't have to continuously change weights. I'm just using this exact same weight throughout all repetitions. So the exercise I'm going to do now is the shoulder press. So this is going to be a seated shoulder press, excuse me, with the back here. So it's a little bit easier on my back. All the pressure is going to be on my shoulders. If you're doing them standing without a back, it definitely works your core a lot more. So I'm just going to put it all on my shoulders here, just so you can kind of see how it's done, especially for I'm just focusing on exhausting my shoulders instead of exhausting my entire body here. So same thing with doing a dumbbell bench press. I'm going to put the weights onto my knees so I get control over the weights before I kick them up so they're up high. So I'm going to do a number of reps. When I feel exhausted, I'm going to put the weights back down on my knees. Take about a few breaths, maybe between 5 and 20 seconds rest, and then jump right back into it and do a couple more repetitions. Again, like a drop set, you can continuously do it, but every time you do it, you're probably going to do less and less reps in between each rest and pause, depending on how you want to program yourself. For me, I'm just going to do it once and then take that long rest in between sets. So, knee up. Now I'm going to position my body correctly. Torso is nice and tall. And begin. My elbows are going to go about shoulder height, maybe a little bit below shoulder height, and then pressing up. And feel exhausted, so I'm going to put them down. Take a rest here. I probably only do maybe 1 or 2 more repetitions after this short rest. But I gotta breathe, get oxygen back into my muscles. And back up again. And that is good. And now I'll take that longer rest break. Let my muscles relax. Like I said, I like to stand up, wiggle myself around each set. If you watched my last clinic, I went over supersets, where it was back-to-back exercises. You can do these, combine them with these, but because these are so exhausting, very difficult, maybe not be the best idea, but you certainly can do that if you feel comfortable and have the energy to do it. But not always the case. Best to combine exercises, especially when you're exhausted. You start to lose your form, And form is so important when you're exercising. And you don't want to overdo it. Again, just like the drop set, my next set here, probably do a lot less reps because I've just used up a lot of energy, a lot of strength in that first set. Take a little bit more rest here. If you have any questions, concerns about these, certainly reach out to us. And I'll begin once more. Do one more set of these. There's sometimes small things that you might want to pay attention to on even how to prepare yourself. As for me, since I'm right-handed, I get the left weight up first, so I have control over that. I'm always paying attention to my left side, because that's the side that's going to be exhausted first. You might have noticed it takes a little bit longer for me, especially at the end, to straighten that out, and that's when I definitely know I'm at my limit. Begin. And my limit there. Take another, probably take a little bit closer to 20 seconds here for the rest. Sometimes I feel like just getting the weights up into position is harder than the actual exercise. It's a lot more range of motion to lift it up. And done. Ah, definitely feeling it. Starting to sweat as well, quite profusely. And that's just one example of the rest pause. I'll do one more movement pattern here and just do one more set of exercises, and that'll be it for today. So I'm just going to get myself ready for it. I only need one dumbbell. But I still take that little bit of rest in between exercises. Even though I'm changing the movement pattern, which will change the muscles being used, I'll still be a little exhausted for it. The next one I'm going to do is the one arm row. So it's a great back exercise, pulling that weight up, thinking about getting your elbow up to the ceiling. You'll see, if you're unfamiliar with it, in a moment on how to do it. So this is one where it's going to be one arm at a time. So it's going to take a little bit more time because I'll do one arm at a time, take that rest pause, continuing on with that arm, and then I got to swap arms. So there'll definitely be a little bit more rest because I'm working one side at a time compared to all the other exercises I've been doing both at the same time. So for this, I've got my bench here where I'm going to have one knee up on the bench. I'm going to be leaning forward with my hand On the bench, same arm as the knee that's on the bench. My back gonna be nice and straight. My weight is gonna be right below me, so I'm gonna lift that weight up and try to get jab that elbow. Imagine jabbing it to the ceiling and then back down. All right. Definitely very easy to just put that down right below me. Again, between 5 to 20 seconds rest here. Breathing, give myself a little more energy. Back for a couple more. And rest. Guess I could have done that a little bit more the first set, had a little more energy. So it definitely sometimes takes practice to know the weight that you need to use, how much intensity you can put into it, and between that rest, and move on to that second immediate set, a few repetitions. So advantage with both arms, you can take a rest in between one arm to the next. That's what I'm gonna do right now. So I just worked my left arm, go on my right with a little bit of rest in between. Just give me some more energy to be able to talk to the camera. So same thing as before. This time it's going to be my opposite leg up onto the bench, and the opposite arm, or the same arm that's on the bench as my leg. Again, grab the weight and think about pulling my elbow up to the ceiling with my straight back. Down for that rest. And right back into it. And that was the rest pause. Whew. As you can see, between exercises, it gets a little bit easier from one exercise to the next. Do you need a drop set or the rest pause? As the weight is pretty much very close to the beginning for the one arm row, it's very easy to pause, put the weight there, pick it right back up to the next one. As you can see, compared to the shoulder press, it's on my knees, and I had to lift it up into position. So that becomes a bit more difficult. Exactly why I did the shoulder press first before I did this, so I had a little bit more energy to be able to adjust myself and not worry about hurting myself with the heavy weights in my hands. But yeah, if you have any questions, further questions or concerns about any of these, feel free to reach out to us. My next one on Tuesday, I'm going to be going over some circuit programming, a very popular and familiar one with most people. So come on back and check that out if you're interested. But thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.